There were too many mirrors in that room. Slick marble floors, wine that tasted like money, people smiling too wide. Her hand left mine before the doors even closed behind us. She didn't say anything. Didn't whisper a promise to stick close. Didn't introduce me to anyone. Just let go. Walked forward, tall, polished, untouchable. She looked back once, barely, then disappeared into a sea of people I didn't know and didn't care to meet. I stood by the bar. Alone. Silent. Out of place in my only suit, the one from our wedding that I hadn't worn since. Everyone around me wore confidence like it was cologne, shaken, not sprayed. Casual arrogance. I wasn't one of them. Never had been. She used to like that about me. Now it felt like a liability. She was across the room talking to a man in a charcoal blazer, his hand lightly grazing her back as she laughed. Her eyes sparkled, but not in the way they used to, not the soft, amused kind. This was sharp. Calculated. Something I hadn't seen before, or maybe just hadn't admitted seeing. She didn't look at me. Not once. I waited. 10 minutes. Then 20. I sipped melted ice from a drink I didn't want. My eyes tracked her movements like she was a storm I was watching crawl across the map, unpredictable, powerful, headed somewhere I didn't belong. I caught my reflection in a polished panel behind the bar. I looked like someone who didn't get invited. Like someone who came as an afterthought. I stepped outside. Didn't say a word to anyone. Just walked through the front doors and into the cold, letting the street noise rush back in like a tide. My jaw was tight. Hands in pockets. Breathing measured. My phone buzzed. One new message. From her. Come. That was it. No punctuation. No context. Just that single word like a leash snap taut. I stared at it. The part of me that still clung to hope wanted to believe she was waiting somewhere private. That she realized she'd left me behind. That she wanted to fix it. But the part of me that had watched her all night, the part that remembered every strange late text, every turned shoulder in bed, every moment of distant silence masquerading as peace, that part knew. This wasn't an invitation. It was a test. And I was walking straight into it. The hallway she sent me to was quiet. Too quiet. Muted from the party noise behind the double doors. I walked slow, my shoes tapping softly against the tile, passing by art I didn't understand, those abstract swirls that rich people hang up just to prove they have taste. The kind of place she belonged in now. I reached the end of the corridor. A small alcove half-lit by one overhead bulb and a window with the blinds pulled crooked. The door to the side conference room was slightly open. Her silhouette stood inside. She was leaning against the table, hands behind her, one foot crossed over the other. Like she had all the time in the world. Like she was expecting me. I stepped in. Madison, I said. She didn't speak. Just looked at me with that unreadable face. That same expression she used when she was thinking 10 steps ahead, cold, distant, almost pitying. The door creaked softly behind me as it swung closed, and suddenly it felt like a trap. She finally spoke. You didn't have to walk out like that. I laughed once. Dry. I was standing there like an idiot for almost an hour. I saw you, she said with a shrug so casual it made my hands clench. You saw me. I repeated. And you just left me there? Her eyes flicked up sharp. What did you want me to do? Drag you around like a lost puppy? You don't talk to anyone. I blinked. I didn't know I needed to perform. She pushed off the table. You always do this. Get quiet. Make it about how hurt you are. But never ask why I act the way I do. I didn't even know what I was supposed to say to that. My head was buzzing. She was standing there, dressed like a polished weapon, tearing into me like I was the one who'd abandoned her. What was I supposed to think? I asked. You didn't say a word to me after we walked in. You just disappeared. I was working, she snapped. That's what this was. Work. I invited you so you could see what I actually do. And instead, you sulked by the bar like some neglected husband. Because that's exactly what I was. Silence. The tension stretched so thin I could feel the heat rising between us. Then she stepped forward, close enough for me to see the edge in her eyes. You still don't get it, do you? What? I asked. What am I missing? She exhaled. A short, sharp breath. Everything. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Didn't let me see the screen. Just tilted it away from me and tapped to silence it. I didn't need to see the name. I could feel what it was. A tremor ran through my spine. Something clicked into place. I took a step back. And she didn't stop me. Outside, the music from the party was still thumping through the walls. But the sound was muffled now, like I was underwater. Like everything I thought I understood had just shifted by a fraction of a degree and would never realign again. I didn't ask who was texting her. I already knew. But the way she said everything. That word wasn't about me. It was about someone else. I walked out of that hallway slower than I had walked in. Each step felt like it echoed longer than the one before it. There was a ringing in my ears, not from the party bass, but from her. From that word she'd thrown at me like a blade. Everything. She said it like I had missed something obvious. Like I had been walking around blind while she lived a parallel life with sharper edges and clearer rules. I didn't go back into the event. Didn't want to play the part of the quiet, awkward husband standing in a room full of people who probably already knew what I hadn't. I stepped outside again. Into the cold. Same air. Same curb. But I wasn't the same. This time I called a ride. Sat on a cold bench under the streetlight while the app showed that my driver was 10 minutes away. I stared at my phone. No new messages. No, I'm sorry. No, come back. Just silence. And then at minute 7 it lit up. Not from Madison. From him. Ryan. A name I hadn't seen on my screen in months. We used to talk every day. Used to send each other dumb memes and fantasy football trash talk and random voice messages from gas stations and road trips. We grew up in the same neighborhood, shared locker rooms, secrets, even hospital rooms. He was there when my dad died. I was there when his kid was born. I hadn't heard from him in months. And now? Hey, you busy? 3 words. 3 words that didn't belong. Not at this hour. Not on this night. Not after the look on Madison's face and the mystery text she'd hidden from me in that sterile little room. I didn't answer. I clicked his name. Scrolled back. Our last conversation was 6 months ago. A meme. Something stupid about working from home. But buried above that, 3 messages caught my eye. From his number. Sent at weird hours. You okay? Can't talk right now, but... That thing from earlier. Don't stress. I never saw them when they came in. They'd been marked as read. Madison had my phone a lot back then. Played music through it. Borrowed it when hers was dead. Laughed at my terrible group chats. I never thought to question it. But now? Now it clicked. The car pulled up. I got in. Told the driver to go anywhere but home. I needed air. Needed distance. Needed to breathe. The ride was silent except for the engine hum and the thoughts screaming in my head. Everything that didn't make sense was lining up like teeth on a zipper. The nights she stayed late. The way she bristled when I mentioned Ryan. The time I asked if he was okay and she said, yeah, I think he's seeing someone. Some woman from his gym. Some woman. That line hadn't even registered until now. Until her fingers hit a message from me like it was a reflex. Until he sent a text at midnight on the same night she whispered, come. I wasn't angry. I was something else. Colder. Sharper. Ready. Because if this was what I thought it was, then they weren't just lying. They were laughing. I told the driver to stop 2 blocks from our house. Didn't want Madison seeing headlights through the blinds. I needed time to think, to watch the pieces settle before I decided which one I'd tear out first. The walk back was slow. Quiet. Each step sounded louder in my head than the next. Like footsteps at the edge of a cliff. The house looked normal. Porch light on. Her favorite lantern flickering like always. Mail still tucked in the box. A picture-perfect lie, trimmed and painted and ready for show. Inside, she was in the kitchen, barefoot, sipping wine like she hadn't ghosted me in a hallway full of strangers. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. Hey, she said casually like nothing had happened. You left quick. I didn't answer. Just watched her place the glass down. Her nails tapped the stem once, twice. Her tells were subtle. They always were. But I'd learned to spot them. She only did that when she was rehearsing something in her head. I figured you weren't feeling it, she continued. Crowds. Noise. You've never been. Ryan texted me. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't lunge. Didn't accuse. Just dropped the sentence like a hammer between us. That stopped her. She blinked. Lips parted. Then she nodded slowly and leaned back against the counter like she was bracing for a wave. What did he say? Doesn't matter, I said. What matters is that he did. And you panicked when your phone buzzed back there. Like you knew who it was. Like you knew I'd feel it. She didn't deny it. Didn't lie. Didn't say anything. Just looked down. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. So I gave her the mercy of the first strike. How long? Her eyes lifted. She looked at me like she was deciding whether I deserved the truth or just a prettier lie. 6 months, she said. Calm. Clinical. No tears. No apology. I nodded. Not because I accepted it. Because I knew it was worse. Just physical? I asked. She almost smiled. That bitch smile. The one that meant she didn't care how this landed. No, she said. Not just. That word echoed. Not just. It wasn't just betrayal. It was connection. Something she gave him that used to be mine. I sat down at the table. Same spot where we ate dinner 2 nights ago. Same spot where she once showed me paint swatches and asked if we should make this our forever home. You planned it. She shook her head. It just happened. Nothing just happened 6 months in a row. She tilted her head, looking at me almost sadly. You were already gone, babe. You just didn't want to admit it. There it was. The narrative. The excuse. The justification she'd been sewing for months. It fit her now like a tailored coat. You were unhappy, so you ed my best friend? You didn't see me anymore. I see you now. Her eyes narrowed. What do you want from me? I want you to leave, I said. She laughed. Actually laughed. This is my house too. No. It's a house I paid for, filled with things I built and poisoned by what you did in it. She didn't move. So I stood, walked past her, opened the front door, and held it open. She stared at me for a second. Just one. Then grabbed her keys. No shoes. No jacket. Just her phone and that half-finished glass of wine. She didn't slam the door. Didn't scream. She just walked out. Because she knew. I wasn't the one leaving this time. The silence that followed her exit wasn't peaceful. It was surgical. Clean. Cold. Precise. I stood there in the doorway for a full minute, listening for the sound of her car pulling out, wondering if she'd stop, turn around, rush back with tears and apologies. A final plea. One last attempt to manipulate me with nostalgia. But no. Just tires whispering over pavement. Fading. Gone. I closed the door. Locked it. Turned off the porch light. I didn't sit down right away. I walked the house like a stranger, moving through rooms that still smelled like her, passing objects she'd picked out, memories etched into furniture that now felt like evidence. Every photo on the wall felt like a joke. A crime scene framed in gold. Her coat still hung by the door. Her shoes were still under the bench. But the version of her who wore them, the version I loved, was long gone. Had been for months. I opened her closet. Started packing. Not in rage. Not in panic. But methodically, like checking boxes on a list. Sweaters. Dresses. Shoes. That stupid silk robe she always left draped on the bathroom door. Folded. Bagged. Labeled. By the time I finished, the sun was beginning to rise. And the house already felt less hers. I called Ryan that afternoon. Not to yell. Not even to ask why. I just needed to hear his voice. To see if he'd lie with the same ease she did. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, he said. Like nothing was wrong. Like we were still boys. Still us. You've been screwing Madison, I said flatly. Silence. Then a long breath. I didn't want it to happen like that, he said. I stared at the wall. But it did. I know. You lied to my face. I didn't know how to stop it, he said. There was no anger in his voice. No shame. Just weariness. That made it worse. She's gone now, I told him. I told her to leave. You win. I didn't want to win. I laughed. A low, bitter sound. You sure played like you did. Another pause. Then, you're not gonna hit me or something, are you? No, I said. You're not worth a bruise on my knuckle. Click. I didn't block him. I didn't need to. I knew I'd never hear from him again. He'd made his choice. And now he had to live with it, every version of it. The looks from mutual friends. The half-lies he'd tell at parties. The phone that wouldn't light up with my name ever again. And Madison? I didn't know where she went. Didn't ask. Didn't care. I imagined her at her sister's. Maybe in some boutique Airbnb with a wine rack and fake succulents. Maybe texting him. Maybe not. Maybe blaming me. Probably. But it didn't matter anymore. They'd already taken what they came for. What they didn't realize is they freed me in the process. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not my brother. Not my friends from college. Not even my mother, who'd always had a quiet suspicion about Madison she never voiced out of respect. There was something sacred about keeping it to myself, at least for a little while. Like a wound that needs to stay wrapped until the bleeding stops. Instead, I started cleaning. Not just her things, those were already boxed and waiting by the door, but everything. Drawers. Shelves. Closet corners filled with the invisible dust of 2 lives that had slowly become one-sided. I found old birthday cards she wrote me, once filled with paragraphs. But the most recent ones? 2 lines. A heart. Her name. That told me more than I ever wanted to know. On the 3rd day, I walked into the guest room and saw it the way a guest would. Neutral. Untouched. No fingerprints of us. And for the first time, I made a conscious decision. That would be my room now. Not some cold and used space with folded towels and a guest pillow nobody slept on. Mine. A place where nothing reminded me of what I had lost. Just what I was reclaiming. I moved my clothes in. Left the master bedroom as it was, closed the door, and didn't open it again. Later that week, Madison sent a message. Not long. Not dramatic. You don't have to throw everything away. I stared at it for a while. There was no question mark. No apology. No accountability. Just a statement like I was the one bulldozing the past. She still didn't get it. I hadn't thrown anything away. She did. She tossed loyalty like it was clutter. Folded trust into someone else's sheets. Set fire to the version of us I fought to keep alive, and now, standing in the ash, she wanted to mourn the blueprint. I didn't reply. I archived the conversation. That Friday, I went to dinner alone. First time in years. No reservation, just walked in and asked for a table for one. The hostess blinked at me, maybe surprised, maybe not, but I didn't care. I ordered what I wanted. Sat by the window. Watched people pass outside, bundled in coats, laughing into each other's necks. And I didn't envy them. I didn't wish for someone to sit across from me. I just ate my meal. Tasted it. Every bite. No distraction. No faking a smile for someone scrolling their phone. No pretending things were fine. Just food. And peace. When I got home, Benny greeted me at the door, tail wagging, tongue out, head nudging my thigh like he knew. Knew the weight I carried. Knew it was lighter now. I knelt down, buried my face in his fur, and for a brief second, everything blurred. Not with rage. Not with sorrow. With relief. Because for the first time in what felt like years, there was no secret behind me. No second pair of eyes watching my reactions. No half-truth waiting to detonate. Just me. And silence. And the slow, quiet rebuilding of a man who thought he'd lost everything. When in truth, he'd only just begun to gain himself back. The first time I laughed, really laughed, after it all, it caught me off guard. It wasn't over anything big. Just a random clip on my phone while brushing my teeth. Some guy trying to parallel park for 5 minutes straight. Benny barked at the noise, then hebbed the bathroom door open like a tiny security guard. And I laughed. And then I realized I hadn't heard my own laughter in weeks. Not the polite chuckle at the party. Not the dry sarcasm I used to cover up the ache in my chest. A real laugh. One that came up from somewhere I thought had been gutted and left to rot. I looked in the mirror, toothbrush in hand, foam on my lip, grinning like a fool. I didn't look like someone who had been betrayed. I looked like someone still here. Still fighting. Over the next few days, things started shifting. Subtle things. I began waking up without the weight. No checking the phone for a message I knew wouldn't come. No rehearsing imaginary conversations in the shower. I went to work and stopped pretending I was fine. Just did the job. Ate lunch alone on the bench outside. Didn't fake anything. Let the quiet settle around me without needing to fill it. One coworker asked if I was okay. I said not yet, but soon. And I meant it. Madison tried to call on a Sunday. Twice. Then a text. I know you hate me, but I can't believe this is how it ends. Funny. She had already ended it. I was just the one dragging the truth into the daylight. I didn't reply. I didn't even open the messages. I just let them sit like bones buried in shallow dirt. She wanted a conversation. A stage. Closure. But what she couldn't stand, what he couldn't stand, was that I'd removed the audience. That I'd taken back the microphone. That they weren't the headline anymore. Ryan hadn't resurfaced. His silence was the most honest thing he'd ever given me. But I heard the whispers. From mutual friends. From people too curious to mind their own business. He'd lost his place. Moved in with someone new, a cousin or a coworker. No job change, no relationship update. Just floating. Half-tethered. Good. Let him drift. Let her watch everything slip away, one unread message at a time. They wanted a story with no consequences. I gave them a legacy of consequences. One night, I opened our old photo album. Not to mourn it, but to name it. To face it. Every picture was a warning I hadn't heard loud enough. Her smile too sharp. My posture too bent. The growing space between us framed by fake sunsets and clinking glasses. I didn't rip them up. I didn't burn them. I just shut the book. Put it in a drawer I don't open anymore. There's a freedom in finally stopping the bleeding. In knowing you were lied to and choosing not to let that lie define you. In seeing the ghosts in the room and telling them to leave. And they do. Eventually they do. Because there's only so long a lie can haunt someone who chooses peace over pain. By the 8th week, the world looked different. I wasn't fully healed, whatever that means, but I no longer flinched when I saw couples holding hands. I didn't spiral when someone mentioned betrayal in a podcast or when a movie character caught a partner cheating. I didn't feel the familiar twist in my chest when I passed by Madison's favorite bakery or smelled her perfume on a stranger in a grocery aisle. Instead, I felt distance. Not numbness. Just clarity. Like the smoke had cleared and all that remained was the wreckage, visible and harmless now that the fire was out. One morning, I passed by our old coffee shop, the one we used to visit on Sundays when things were good or when we were pretending they were. I almost kept walking. But something stopped me. I walked in. The place hadn't changed. Still smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon. Same barista behind the counter. She recognized me and gave a sad half-smile. The kind people give when they've heard just enough gossip to know who got burned. Usual? She asked. I hesitated, then shook my head. Let's try something new. And just like that, small as it was, I reclaimed another piece of my life. Later that day, I got an email from Madison. Not a message. An email. Subject line, closure. I don't know what I expected. Something long? Confessional? Regret-soaked? What I got was cold. Carefully written. Polished. I've been thinking about how we ended. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to say that I never meant to hurt you. I made mistakes. We both did. Maybe we outgrew each other and didn't want to admit it. I hope someday you can forgive me, not for me, but for yourself. Take care. No signature. No emotion. Like she was signing off a work email. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't mention Ryan. She didn't once use the word sorry. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. What she called closure was just a last-ditch effort to clean her side of the story. To write a softer ending so she could sleep better at night. But closure doesn't come from the one who broke you. It comes from choosing to stop looking for answers from someone who never gave you the truth to begin with. That weekend, I took Benny on a long trail outside the city. No phone. No music. Just trees and wind and the sound of him panting beside me, tail wagging like he just found the meaning of life in a pile of leaves. And me? I felt still. Not stuck, still. Like I'd finally stopped running. Finally stopped bleeding. And in that stillness, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving it anymore. I was living through it. And that was the most honest thing I'd felt in a long, long time. There's a strange peace that follows when the dust finally settles. Not the kind that feels triumphant. Not fireworks or victory laps. Just quiet. Clean. Undeniable. I stopped checking her socials. Stopped wondering where she was, who she was with, whether Ryan had faded or stayed. At some point, the curiosity crumbled under its own weight and left me with something better, indifference. Indifference is underrated. It's not cruelty. It's not bitterness. It's the space between what hurt you and what you've become without it. I started sleeping through the night again. No jolts awake at 2 a.m. imagining voices in the hallway. No dreams where I was back in that room watching her glance at a buzzing phone and choosing not to show me the screen. I used to wake up sweating, breathing hard as if betrayal could follow me into sleep and slam the door behind it. Now I wake slowly, quietly. No noise. Just light slipping through the blinds and Benny's warm body pressed against my legs. I started reading again too. Books I'd put down years ago. I'd forgotten how good it felt to lose yourself in someone else's story when your own had become too sharp. And I began writing. Not messages I'd never send. Not letters full of pain. I wrote truths. Little ones. The kind that stack up into foundations. What I learned. What I unlearned. What I would never accept again. One afternoon I ran into Anna, Ryan's ex-fiancée, at a bookstore. I didn't even see her at first. She approached me. "Hey," she said. Her voice was calm. Steady. I looked up from the shelf. "Anna." She smiled. It wasn't forced. Just tired in a way I understood too well. We stood there for a moment in mutual recognition. Two people who were collateral damage in someone else's fire. "I've been meaning to say thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not pretending." We talked. Not long. Just long enough to trade scars without reopening them. She was rebuilding too, differently but with the same ache beneath the surface. We didn't linger on names. Didn't gossip. There was no need. We were both living proof that the people we loved weren't who we thought they were. And we were still standing. That night, I went home and opened the last drawer. The one where I'd hidden every leftover reminder of the marriage, cards, photos, her notes scribbled on receipts. I burned them. Not in rage. In release. I stood outside as the fire crackled in the metal bin, each page curling in on itself, words vanishing like they were never written. I let the smoke rise. Watched it drift into the sky without reaching for it. Let it all go. Because the past doesn't belong in every room. And mine? Mine had finally found the door. The anniversary came and went. No reminders. No pop-ups from the calendar. No calls. No trembling hands. I knew the date, of course. 8 years since we stood in front of people who thought we'd make it, who toasted and clapped and smiled like love was a fixed thing, solid, permanent. But love isn't a monument. It's a choice. And the moment she made a different one, it ended. I didn't commemorate it with anything dramatic. No rant. No ceremonial unfollowing. No whiskey in the dark while old songs played. Instead, I spent the day living it forward. Walked the dog. Bought myself a stupidly overpriced coffee from a new shop I'd been meaning to try. Let the sun hit my face. Smiled at strangers without wondering what they'd say if they knew what I'd been through. Because now? It didn't define me anymore. I wasn't the man who got cheated on. I wasn't the husband who got replaced by a best friend. I wasn't the name on the divorce decree. I was me. Stripped down. Still standing. Rebuilt. There was one last thing I had to do. The final thread. I opened our shared drive folder, yes, that damn digital time capsule of wedding photos, old trip plans, voice notes, and recipes we never cooked. I hovered over it for a long moment, then clicked delete. No second thought. No panic. Just done. It asked if I was sure. I clicked yes. That simple. Not a bang. Not a breakdown. Just a quiet reclaiming. A week later, I got a message from someone new. Not Madison. Not anyone connected to the past. It was someone I'd met recently, casual, kind, someone who didn't know my story and didn't need to. She asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes. Not because I was looking for anything. Not because I was trying to move on. But because I had already moved through. And that's the thing people don't tell you about heartbreak. It doesn't just fade. It transforms. It sharpens your vision. Forces you to build borders. It teaches you the shape of your own worth. And if you let it, it sets you free. So here's what I'll say in case you ever find yourself where I was. If they betray you, don't break trying to understand them. Don't chase answers from liars. Don't offer closure to people who closed the door on you first. Walk. Bleed. Sit with the pain. Then stand again. And when you do, don't look back. They're not behind you. They're beneath you. And you? You're just getting started.